He Five Eyes Community in the 21st Century, Part 1. The Five Eyes Community in the 21st Century. The world events since September 11, 2011 have shaken the resolve of many nations, particularly within NATO, where member nations have witnessed and become somewhat disenchanted with out-of-area operations and commitments to operations that have gone sadly and strategically out of kilter. Iraq, Afghanistan and Libya come immediately to mind, and each of these emphasize above all the lack of wide-ranging strategic thinking, not just about the how and what, but the why. For example, vast cultural differences and huge sectarian rifts that have spanned the centuries within the Moslem world, with their critical ethnic, religious and regional affinities, were largely ignored in a somewhat heedless and headlong dash to seek reprisal for the events of 9/11, for what initially was a small terrorist organization, manned largely by Saudi nationals, not Iraqis or Iranians, with limited funds and resources. Lessons learned from the past, if applied judiciously, may prove invaluable. The institutional memory of the Five Eyes community has at times been blunted by the sheer passage of time and generation changes during which technical and operational tradecraft were not passed on. What will be required is something bigger than just UK-US extended bilateral agreements, but a Five Eyes cooperative strategy for 21st century intelligence collection and analysis. Supported by all agencies and their political leadership, the combined strength of Five Eyes intelligence has to be a formidable instrument of strategic power in the service of the security of the collective nations. This predicates the need for a shared Five Eyes intelligence vision. Intelligence is only valuable to the user if it provides reliable, timely, and actionable information that is superior to normal open-source information, and that provides both clear benefits for decision-makers and advantages in terms of insight into and knowledge of the particular subject matter. Ultimately, the game of intelligence, as played out for instance during the Cold War by the various human services of the main international protagonists, is not relevant unless there is real hardcore information emanating from that process. Pitting one secret intelligence service against another may be the subject of spy fiction, but it is irrelevant to the essence of providing actionable classified information of real value. We have already seen that the pace and quality of technological change has accelerated drastically. In the last decade, Five Eyes governments have tended to be behind the curve in responding to technological change. With outmoded contracting systems and timelines from R&D phases to initial operational capability. IOC. Woefully slow and ponderous. With the result that the commercial, non-defense intelligence world is far more ahead of the technical game because of the ability to innovate quickly and effectively. Small startup incubator companies have become the name of the commercial game, not just in Silicon Valley but across the whole Five Eyes industrial and scientific base. Five Eyes governments have tried to step up the pace, but have not succeeded to date, with post-DARPA-esque organizations such as the United States DIU, Defense Innovation Unit, failing to deliver for a host of bureaucratic, funding, and political reasons. We noted earlier that large defense and aerospace companies with massive multi-year contracts that seriously influence their bottom lines and annual shareholder returns are chastened by the possibility of small startups that can well negate the value of the very programs that are their financial lifeblood. This aspect is a problem that has to be addressed. There are solutions for all parties. For example, the more systems of whatever technical nature are open architecture, with the ability to introduce major innovative changes without starting from scratch. In this environment, radical innovations can be quickly implemented without the costly multi-year cycle of typical procurements within the defense and intelligence sectors. Intelligence has a massive technical component. All the Five Eyes key agencies that both cost most in annual budgets and employ most people are at the leading edge of technology. They live and breathe, and one may conjecture possibly die in the future, by being one or more steps ahead technologically than the threat. To fall behind is to fail. At the heart of this issue is simply people, and very smart people. The Five Eyes will have to increasingly search for, recruit, and train the next generation, and most of all allow for innovation to occur at the grassroots. Just as the pressures and exigencies of war and survival forced the British to recruit the finest minds to Bletchley Park, SOE, and the double cross system. Across the Five Eyes community there will need to be a brains trust of the best and the brightest. To keep the community ahead, greater cooperation and sharing will become more critical within closely guarded compartmented programs. Very much along the lines of the U.S. Navy Royal Navy Special Intelligence Collection and Analysis programs, the non-military customers requirements of the Five Eyes may on the surface look very different from those of the military services, but on close inspection there is in fact considerable similarity and overlap. Where in the 21st century the digital communications revolution affects, for instance, foreign policy decision-making that overlap with understanding and countering threat weapon systems, the intelligence products and uses to which they are put may be different, but the essence of the collection sources, methods, and analysis may be very similar in an increasingly artificial intelligence-oriented world in which data sources bear no resemblance to the days of the Cold War. This will require a restructuring of Five Eyes intelligence education and training, requiring experts with proven successful track records to design and implement courses that inspire innovation. A brave new world of next-generation technologies. The 5G international technical race has been running for some time. The companies that will win this race will have unprecedented commercial power. And therefore, from an intelligence perspective, it is critical that both the US and the UK and their Five Eyes partners are 100% not just well-informed but also planning how they will interact with what will be a further revolution in global telecommunications.